After a tough Week 2 loss against the Seattle Seahawks at home in overtime, the Detroit Lions bounced back and absolutely destroyed the Atlanta Falcons to move up to 2-1. Last week, the Falcons beat the Packers, and the Packers' pretty strong defense gave up 211 rushing yards to the Falcons, over 120 from Bijan Robinson. But today, the Lions defense showed out and held the Falcons to only 44 total rushing yards and Bijan Robinson to only 33 rushing yards. The Lions, without a ton of key players, still fought hard and found a way to win, holding the Falcons to the 6 points, and the highlight of this game was the defense. After giving up 20 points to KC Week 1 and getting lucky with a few drops, then allowing 37 points against Seattle at home Week 2, the Lions shut down the Atlanta offense, only allowing 6 points. And it was a huge bounce back, as the Lions had only recorded 1 sack so far this season and struggled to get pressure on a beat-up Seattle offensive line that came out strong and sacked Desmond Ridder 7 times. Aiden Hutchinson, 2 sacks. Charles Harris had a sack. Jack Campbell had a sack. Derek Barnes had a sack. Liam McNeil had a sack. Benito Jones had a sack. They were all over Desmond Ridder. 6 different Lions had a sack today, and that's the most in the NFL since 1991. Additionally, the Lions combined for 7 sacks and 12 tackles for loss, the first time they've done that since 2010. St. Brown continues to be dominant, had a great game, had one bad job but made up for it with 9 receptions for 102 yards. Laporta continues to be a beast, 8 receptions for 84 yards and a long touchdown pass. And Jahmyr Gibbs running the ball, 17 carries for 80 yards, outperforming Bijan Robinson. With this 80-yard performance, Jahmyr Gibbs now has 139 rushing yards on the season off of 31 carries. Additionally, he has 9 receptions receiving. We're still waiting on that first touchdown though. Gibbs is just such a beast. He's so explosive, just going right up the gut, making guys miss, had a few big plays today. Some other talking points about the game. Tracy Walker started his first game in 364 days since his injury, played great, did have a drop pick, which was frustrating, but it didn't matter as the very next play, Hutchinson had a strip sack and fumble recovery. Another big standout today, Brian Branch was all over the Atlanta offense. We knew we were going to see some more of different players with the injuries the Lions were dealing with. I knew Brian Branch was a possibility to have a big game, and he came out to play. 11 tackles, was an absolute ball hawk everywhere on the field, making plays left and right. Had a huge tackle on Bijan Robinson for a loss, just absolute decked him, read the play like a book, and then he got called for a personal foul, and it was a bad call. Robinson lowered his helmet, and Branch was already coming in hot, just decking Robinson, and he got called for helmet to helmet, which I think was a terrible call because it wasn't his fault whatsoever. Robinson lowered his helmet into Branch, and there's a few other calls in this game that the Lions kind of got snubbed with. Against KC, I felt like there was a few iffy calls that went KC's way. Then Week 2 against Seattle, I felt there was definitely quite a few bad calls that really hurt the Lions in key points of the game. And then this week, again, there was just a few calls that didn't go the Lions' way that really hurt the Lions that I felt like were just obvious bad calls or no calls. So I'm going to make a video on that with some analysis on all the Lions' bad calls and see if they're really bad and are the Lions just getting destroyed by the refs. The offense was still strong, but not as strong as I'd like it to be. Still had a great game. Atlanta's defense played pretty well. Goff still played good, 200 yards, touchdown, but had an interception. It was a bad overthrow to St. Brown. Also had an overthrow to Raymond down the field. A little bit off there, but Goff still came right back and was throwing the ball well. You could definitely see he was under pressure a lot more in this game as the Lions offensive line was quite beat up. Goff ended up taking some pretty big hits throughout the middle of the game. For the offense, Ben Johnson continues to show us that he is one of the best offensive minds in the game right now. Goff's rushing touchdown was amazing. The play action to Gibbs, I had no idea that Goff would run that in. I would have never expected that. And it was very exciting watching Goff celebrated. He was hype after that touchdown. Overall, very happy with this win. The Packers and the Lions are now 2-1, tied for first place in the division. The Vikings choked 0-3. The Bears are getting destroyed by KC. They'll be 0-3 as well. So on Thursday night, the Lions head to Lambeau Field to play for first place in the NFC North. Overall, I'm just very proud of this team. The defense showed up after a tough loss. Jerry Jacobs stepped up. Sutton stepped. Everyone on the defense stepped up. Took down Desmond Ridder a ton. I do love having a super good defensive performance after a really bad one last week. It is funny hearing all the people go, fire Aaron Glenn after a bad week 2 performance. Then the defense comes out here, plays amazing. What are you guys saying now? I said I knew it was going to be tough, but this defense can step up and the Lions can win this game. And then you have people still just overreacting after a tough week 2 loss. You know, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes did not build a weak team. A lot of people were doubting the Lions heading into this week. I was nervous with the injuries and how our defense played last week, but I knew this team, we had it in us. The Lions defense, I knew there was a great potential that they can step up. We have playmakers, and offensively, our offense has shown us no sign to doubt them whatsoever. Goff has had 2 picks, but he's still playing amazing. He bounces back from those. He doesn't let those haunt him in his head and just go off the cliff. He comes right back and starts throwing darts to St. Brown. And for the firing Aaron Glenn, people are just crazy. Aaron Glenn has proved that he can be a solid defensive coordinator. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent, and this team needs to build chemistry together. If you remember last year, the Lions were the youngest team in the NFL. Now we have a few rookies coming back with another year under their belt, now going into their second year. But we also have a few new rookies on this defense and new players that haven't played with each other before. It might take a few games for them to build chemistry together. But just look at how good the defense played today. After another week of practice, after another game playing together, they came out even without star players and against a strong run game with one of the best rookie running backs we've seen in a while. Great win by the Lions, going on to week 4 to take down the Packers. 1/6 of the 2023 regular season is now done. This is a great start to the season for the Lions. Couldn't be happier. I mean, it would have been nice to be 3-0, but 2-1 is very good, very solid. Hopefully trajectory to make it to the playoffs. Hopefully win the division. If we can beat Green Bay, that would be huge, putting them in second place and us in first. The Bears and the Vikings both being 0-3 also really does cushion the Lions. If they can win Thursday, they're going to have a pretty solid lead for the NFC North. Again, Green Bay will only be a great game behind, but being up 3 games on the Vikings and Bears would be huge. My last notes, if you said the Lions need to fire Aaron Glenn after week 2, you're a clown. And Thursday night, fuck the Packers.